Is it the land that you are trying to connect with?
So I think that there's an interesting thing happening with this video.
Mentors and teachers in the spiritual community, what to look out for.
I never did that. Hey witches, welcome back to my channel. It's me, your local chaotic witch aunt. I found out recently that some people think that my name, like my channel name, or like they just refer to me as local chaotic witch aunt. I didn't know. I love you if you do that. That's fucking sick. I was so confused because I was just like, it was on Pinterest or something when I was doing the Pinterest video, and people were like, what's a good, you know, YouTube person to watch? And people were like, your local chaotic witch aunt. And I'm like, that's not my channel name, but like, I kind of like it. I just say that because I'm around. I don't think I'm local with most of you. I'm doing a reaction kind of video today. I'm reacting to a video I posted 2021 maybe. I like kind of look very similar to how I look in this video, but I'm wearing eyeliner in it. I don't ever wear eyeliner anymore because I hate it. I hate putting it on. Today I'm reacting to a video connecting with your heritage. We're gonna see how this goes. This was a video from 2 years ago. I don't remember anything about it. I don't remember. It looks like it got like 19,000 views from May 29th, 2021, right before I moved. This, I think, was about a year into the journey of reconnection, so I probably don't know a lot. I want everyone to keep that in mind. And I probably didn't have any teachers at that time. So please keep that in mind when I read this video. I don't know what's gonna happen. This may be a really great foundational video. This may also be a terrible video. I really don't know. I'm gonna grab my water because I need to hydrate or dihydrate in this cold, dry ass climate. So give me one sec. Okay, here we go. Terrified, you know, truly, honestly.
Hi witchlings, welcome back to my channel.
I'm so young. This was literally 3 years ago almost.
It's your local chaotic witch aunt here. Today we have a majorly requested video, and
I feel like my presence is like very good though. Very focused on the camera. I'm really bad at doing that.
we're going to be talking about connecting and claiming your heritage, as well as connecting and, you know, honoring your ancestors. Yay!
Old intro throwback, my dudes.
Connecting with your ancestors and tracing your ancestry. Research, which is cultural, spiritual, societal, and historical. And having a teacher or mentor if there's a specific practice. So let's say you are attempting to learn Slavic folk magic, or you're attempting to connect with Slavic heritage. You want someone who is immersed and is a teacher of Slavic folk magic and is willing to teach and has either been raised in it or has learned it or has been taught it in themselves and knows it well. And I'm going to make another video pretty in depth on mentors and teachers in the spiritual community, what to look out for.
I never did that. I don't know if that's something you guys still want. I have a list of red flags somewhere about this, possibly in my alleged second book. I can talk about that in a different video. I think that it is so hard in online spiritual communities to find mentors and teachers, because a lot of those times those teachers may not be active parts of a community, so they're not really community vetted. And that is a term that Urban Wizard on Threads, who is part of Cauldron Black and teaches there, something they said that I think is really powerful is to be communally vetted. And once you kind of find and establish an online community that is a real community, like people of similar backgrounds, like practitioners, all of this, and they're all kind of intertwined with each other, giving each other feedback, holding each other accountable, it's much easier to recognize who is going to be a good teacher, mentor, role model for you versus just kind of scrolling on TikTok and someone's like, I can teach you witchcraft. And you're like, oh, cool. Let me pay them for that. I think that I always kind of lean towards vetting those teachers. Like, are those teachers gonna share who they taught, who they like learned from? Are those teachers gonna share, you know, what their sources are? Is the work that they wrote their only source that they're giving you? Not a great start, right? You know, we want variety of backgrounds. Is what they're saying kind of lining up with things that other members of the community had said or experienced or kind of talked about? Or is it kind of in direct opposition with what other people are saying about this topic? You know, so there's a lot of nuance there that I can't get into fully in this video, but maybe I should in another video because no one talks about it. No one talks about it. And there are like bad teachers in the world, especially in spiritual communities. There are teachers who really just kind of want to take advantage of you and not teach you and be there for you. So, you know, anyways.
And what are red flags? The other thing that I consider a huge part of this is immersion. And I think that in a way, having a mentor or teacher or learning and researching is immersion, but I do think that
that is not what immersion is. Immersion is being immersed in a culture. It is actually living and experiencing a culture. You cannot get that from a teacher. You cannot get that from a book. The only way you're going to be immersed in Italian American culture is by living it, which is why I am not Italian. I am Italian American, because I am not immersed in Italian culture. I don't live in Italy. I live on Turtle Island as an Italian American with an Italian American community. So immersion cannot happen by understanding folk magic from scholars or from one viewpoint. And that is why I think one of my teachers, Lisa Fazio, the Root Circle, posted something about like, your ancestors are always with you. You can connect with your ancestors at any point, but you cannot just connect with a culture by seeing it, by being around it, by having an ancestor from that culture. Because diaspora exists and diasporic culture exists, and it's very valid. But my metaphor for Italy is like, we both came from milk. I'm Parmesan, they're mozzarella, you know, like terrible cheese metaphor, but like two different types of cheeses that come from the same place, but we're very different now, but it's okay that we're different because it's not bad. Like, I am not sitting here saying I'm Italian because I'm not, because I think some Italians sometimes think that I'm trying to impose myself as an Italian. No, Italian American, Italo-Americana. I don't think that's right. I need someone to help me. Like, I personally, like, still learning the language. So, yeah. That's not what immersion is. That was my entire point. Anyways.
You have the possibility and the financial means, even if it's 5 or 10 years from now, to visit the land that you are trying to connect with.
So I think that there's an interesting thing happening with this video. I say connecting with heritage, right? But I don't define heritage. And heritage is a very loaded word, okay? Especially in spiritual communities, right? There's so many people that are like, oh, this is my heritage, so I can take it. Or this is my heritage, and if you don't look like me, you can't be a part of it. So I don't define the word, and I kind of just start talking about all these different things that are different aspects of reconnection, without a lot of like, this is how you reconnect to this. This is how you reconnect to this. You know, this is what's gonna help you here. So I'll be really interested to see in what I talk about in terms of, because like, obviously, yes, if you're Italian American, you wanna connect with Italian folk magic or Italian American folk magic, learning about Italy is a big part of that. Recognizing where your ancestors immigrated from, why they immigrated, the culture there, is important. Understanding Italian folk magic helps us understand Italian American folk magic, because Italian American folk magic is a diaspora of Italian folk magic, right? So visiting that place will definitely help. But this is not really financially accessible. I don't know if you've looked at the gas prices recently, but I am stuck in Colorado. And I'm sure a lot of other people are in the same position. So I find it interesting that that's the first thing I went to, and I didn't go to like connect with ancestral plant allies, connect with ancestors, connect with ancestral saints. kind of lineup is very important here. You know what I mean?
That is insane. That's great. That's perfect. That's amazing. And I should also say that this is going to be different for everyone. I am speaking primarily as an Italian-American person, an Italian-American practitioner who is looking to connect with and learn Italian folk magic.
So, remember what I said about if you want to learn a cultural folk magic, you gotta start with the folk? That's what little Frankie needed to learn. And I've learned it now. I love my community. I love my people so much. I don't know if they knew that, you know? And I think that's a really important part. And you know, obviously not everyone who puts himself in the position of an elder or a teacher is gonna be the right elder or teacher that you need to connect with to learn. But that doesn't mean that, you know, we ignore. You know, we don't need to ignore. Right? Yeah, okay.
It is going to be different depending on the area. If you're looking into Irish folk magic, if you're looking into Slavic folk magic, if you're looking into German or Austrian folk magic, it's going to be different, and it's going to be a different journey for every single one of you. So starting off,
once again, I find it interesting that I say connecting with heritage, but I'm talking about folk magic. Do we define that as the full heritage of someone? No. And also, what do we mean when we say that? Their heart is in the right place, and I know that. But there's so many more things that I've known and I've learned now that I think it's very interesting to look back at where I was.
First thing that I did to connect with my heritage and my ancestors was literally connecting with my ancestors. I set up.
I know that I'm going into depth right now, but can you imagine being the first thing I did to connect with my ancestors, literally connect with my ancestors? How does one do that? How do we do that? Who are the ancestors? Who do we mean when we say that? There's a lot of nuances that I'm not getting here. It's okay. I do really want to wonder, like, what lipstick is that? Because I want to wear it again. I have no idea. Damn, lost a lipstick in transit.
An ancestral altar, and I started tracing my ancestry. Tracing your ancestry is not an easy thing.
I don't think that tracing your ancestry is the best option for many people, because there are active situations in which genocide is happening and you cannot find anything. My friend who runs the Armenian Folk Magic Instagram page, like, her great-grandma changed their name and now they don't know she can't find anything about that. So tracing your ancestry is great if you have a history of ancestors that weren't facing genocide, colonization, or erasure of their identities. A better way to connect with your ancestors is to set up an ancestral altar, which I mentioned, and I can talk through that. I think I have a video about that already up. And actually talk to living ancestors. What I mean is talk to the people you are related to if you are in a place where you are comfortable to do so. If not, skip this step and that's okay. Because I understand that there's a lot of shitty family members out there, so I'm not gonna tell you to go talk to someone that is terrible. But actually connecting within alive relatives about your family, about your ancestors that's a great first step in terms of reconnection. Like, I literally would sit with my mom for hours and talk through, like, did we do this? Did we do that? Do you remember this? And that was how I gained a lot of information about a lot of our cultural traditions and Italian American traditions, was from my memory, her memory, and then from their research and connecting with other Italian Americans. I think tracing your ancestry is great if you know your family's names, the region they were from, and weren't actively being erased off the face of the earth due to white supremacy, right? So not the best first step. Like I said, I did preface this with, like, this is from a white perspective, but I didn't really give any other options in terms of if someone's watching and is Indigenous and wants to connect, how are they gonna do that if they can't find anything on an ancestry website, you know?
It is not. is taking me about a year to get like.
That's because I didn't have any information on names. Because I don't have the family records. They're in Italy.
A nice family tree up. How I recommend starting with connecting with your ancestors is very much honoring them and venerating them. I talk about this book all the time, but Honoring Your Ancestors by Mallory Vaudouez is great. It talks about ancestral veneration, how honoring our ancestors can be seen in our honoring the land, honoring our plant allies, our animal allies, because once we go back far enough, we are all plants, and the plants are our parents and our family.
In the words of the Root Circle, plants are our ancestors that are still alive. So I do talk about it. I don't really talk in depth. I give a book recommendation. Good enough.
Honoring saints, honoring everything, different aspects, and there are different forms of ancestors as well. So blood ancestors are going to be one side, but once you are adopted, that is also ancestry. Those can be, like, adopted ancestors are a thing. Connecting with your ancestors and tracing your ancestors.
I needed to go more in depth on who are ancestors. Did you know ancestors can also be members of your community or your identity that are famous? Queer ancestors, ancestors of like work. You could connect with fellow dead writers, you could connect with saints, you could connect with other members and landmarks of the queer community as your ancestors. And that can be your ancestor veneration. You don't even have to talk to your family if you don't want to, okay?
Ancestry. The process that I did for this is intense. It's a lot, and this is what I did. I started by talking to my mom and getting as much information as I could on the name.
Okay, good, but we don't want just names, we want stories. Stories is how things are passed down. It's how they continue to live.
Of family members, birthdays, death days, everything that I could possibly get from my mom. Then I talked to my mom's cousin. I talked to anything she remembered because she was older than my mom and she remembers my great grandma. And I got this took a year, by the way. I got physical like pictures of passports and immigration documents, which then led me to my great grandparents' parents. I never have had an issue with sourcing the specific area that my family is from. That is something that we know and we've always been really connected to. I'm someone who, even though I have lost my folk magic, the language, and
my ancestors, not mine. It was my ancestors.
Certain aspects of the culture in the assimilation to America, I still have really strong ties to superstitions, beliefs, certain things that are ingrained.
That is true. There were certain things that I was raised with or taught from a very young age that turned out being very Italian American as I grew up. And I don't know, that's like such an experience to recognize that, you know?
And an Italian folk magic. When I read my books on Italian folk magic, which I have in my Google Doc, resource doc, links for that.
So I took that down just because I don't really feel like keeping up with it anymore. I'm sorry. If there's a book or a resource I'll recommend, I'll literally probably just put it on Instagram. I will tag them, I will post it. I got tired of keeping up with that document. I also don't have a lot of time anymore.
There are things that I can see that my family does without knowing that is part of folk magic.
Yes? Yes, I think.
In tracing your ancestry, I use Ancestry.com. You can.
There are a few websites that are Mormon. I don't know which ones. Don't give your information to them. And even then, you don't need to know the name of your 6th great-great-grandmother if you don't want to pay for Ancestry.
Also do a DNA test. A DNA test is...
Don't do a DNA test. You can. I just have heard a lot of things about like DNA tests being like selling information right now. I don't know if that's legit or not. Also, some DNA test places are Mormon and like Christian. So if you're gonna do a DNA test, be very selective with which one you do, and remember that having a percentage of something doesn't actually just give you access to that thing if you are not connected with that culture.
really beneficial. I understand that not everyone has the financial resources to
Yeah.
do a DNA test or trace your ancestry.
Yeah,
So like this past year,
I've never done a DNA test because I just don't care to see what's going on. I just am what I am.
which is why it's taken me so long to really start doing this. But if you aren't financially able, talking to your family members about what they remember about your grandparents, your great-grandparents, where they came from, where your great-great-great-grandparents came from, anything that you can remember and talking to them, getting the story.
I love how my chair is squeaky no matter where I live. Just wanted to note that.
Is getting information on birthdays, death days, maiden names, etc., because that will give you more of a fleshed out look on your ancestors and connecting with them. To set up an ancestor altar is relatively simple. All you really need is a white candle and a glass of water. That's it. That's all I have on my...
So yes, that is the bare minimum for an ancestor altar. For me, historic, or like at least in my family, having pictures of family members is very traditional. And especially passed on family members, so that's what I have on there. I have ancestral plant allies, rosaries, my regional Italian playing cards. I have a lot of things on that altar that are associated with them, dedicated to them. I also continuously coffee, cookies, everything I'm making on there.
Well, actually, I have a little more on my ancestor altar, but it's also a saint altar, so it's kind of mixed.
They are no longer the same, and that's okay.
And there are different things that you can do in devotion to them. For me, learning Italian folk magic, studying it, and learning Italian are part of my devotion to my lost and bringing it back into the family. And like I said, Honoring Your Ancestors by Mallory Bedways is the best book I have on this, and this is where I would begin. I would begin with ancestor work and ancestor veneration, because in a lot of folk...
I'm trying to untangle my microphone. Historical, spiritual, communal, all good. I hope that I go into specifics on what all of those mean. So, stay tuned while I fix my mic.
Okay, you're vibing in the house, having a good time, chilling. Someone you don't know comes into the house and says, "Oh my God, this is my house." And you're like, well, okay, I've lived here for a really long time, and maybe I knew your great-great-grandpa was living in this house, but you haven't been in this house for a while, and you don't really know anything about the rules of this house. You don't know anything about this house. But this person comes in and says, okay, but like, because my great-great-grandpa lived in this house, now this house is somewhere I can inhabit, even without knowing anything about the rules of the house.
So the house metaphor is pretty good. It obviously needs a little bit more nuance than that. And I think that the emphasis that I put on, like, this is gonna be different for everyone, I need to put a little more emphasis on it. This is gonna be different for everyone, even other Italian Americans. So I think that's like something just to keep in mind.
Looks like when someone who is working to connect and claim their heritage doesn't go through any of the proper and necessary steps to connect or claim with the heritage, it just starts claiming it as theirs. That is something that when I talk to people who are Italian, when I talk to people who are Irish, born in Ireland, born in Italy, they don't like seeing that happen because it doesn't make sense. You don't get to be a second or third generation Italian American or Irish American and be completely disconnected.
I'm giving a lot of examples of different diasporic communities, and I feel like I should have just focused on mine.
From the history, the culture, the practices of the land that your ancestors came from, and then just suddenly start claiming it as yours without any knowledge about anything about that country. That is what we avoid. And that is why when I say connecting and claiming, that is the important part of this.
The most important part of reconnection is actually living the embodied experience of it. And connecting with your community, because who's gonna hold you accountable in the situations where maybe you do this? Your community.
This is a long process. I personally will not consider myself a full-fledged Italian folk witch.
I will never consider myself an Italian folk witch because I'm not Italian, I'm Italian American. Hey!
Italy and go to the town that my grandma was born in.
This is very optimistic. However, little Frankie didn't understand finances, and that's okay. I understand that. It is very hopeful.
Until I train under someone who is a traditional Italian healer and knows our medicines and...
So I think that train is interesting. Italian folk magic is interesting because every family, every region has done it differently. So even if you find someone who says that they're like a teacher and they're like the authority, they're the authority on the magic from their family in their region. They're not the authority on the magic of your family in your region because they're not in your family. So learning from different teachers for different reasons is really important. And also one of the best things we can do is learn from our peers and learn from the people around us and share things with each other.
Our plants and our practices. Because to me, that is when I will really understand and really be connected with my ancestors. Not
this, she has not cooked a good chicken soup yet. I can tell.
even when I am just studying it. Because when studying it from books,
studying it is different than actually practicing it. In practice, you embody the experience and you become one of the folk. Even if it doesn't look exactly like your ancestors, it doesn't need to. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to take the teachings of the past and bring them now into the future and create them and work with them and reconstruct and reconnect with them.
Is great, and it gives me a lot of information and I can implement some things into my practice, but it doesn't entail me being able to say I am an Italian folk witch. I do.
Once again, I will never identify as an Italian folk witch because I am not Italian. I am Italian American. And while it comes from Italy, it is different. And I think that's wise because I had an understanding that I could not identify as an Italian folk witch because of A, B, and C, when in reality that was not the community that and culture I should have been trying to connect with in the first place. I should learn about it, I should connect with Italians, and I should learn language, and I should learn these things to bring it back and reconstruct and bring this culture back. But I'm not Italian.
I do Italian folk medicine, and I do Italian folk witchcraft or magic. It's just my opinion on what you...
That is an opinion.
You need to do to connect with it and to claim it.
Yeah, you go in like full, you like started here full throttle balls to the wall of what we need to do to identify as an Italian American. We should just perhaps maybe learn a little bit more about stuff before we get on the internet and say things.
And I think a lot of people ignore that and just start saying that something is theirs when they don't have any information on anything.
So that's true. I think my brain at this point in time is like, I don't want this to happen, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna do this. I don't want to go somewhere I'm not allowed, so my choice is I gotta wait until I completely visit Italy and become immersed in Italian culture.
They're like, oh, I'm an Italian witch. I'm like, okay. Have you studied this?
Oh, Frankie. We are not little Frankie. You're not.
This and this.
The gatekeeper of this. You do not have to keep things from people. I have met people who have this ideology here of how can you be an Italian American folk witch if you do A, B, and C, if you don't know A, B, and C. And it is such a terrible mentality to have because once again, every region is different, every family is different. No two folk magics, they look similar, they're not gonna be exactly alike. And we can have shared cultural things as an American, as a, like diasporic practice when a bunch of different regions came together and shared. But it doesn't mean that things are gonna fit for everyone in the context of their family or in the context of their ancestors. And that's okay. We don't need to sit here and say, well, if you don't know Italian, how do you do? I don't know Italian either, babe. It's okay. We don't have to learn this. this. Everyone's starting from somewhere, and everyone's gonna get there eventually. As long as they do the work. That's the important thing. How can we give people the tools to do the work instead of saying, well, how can you call yourself this if you don't have A, B, and C? Because do you know how many times I've had people approach me who criticized that I was not doing authentic Italian American folk magic, that I was misrepresenting it, but didn't actually give me any tools to do better? Just kind of said that and left it there for me to sit with, without kind of being like, well, what exactly is it that I'm doing wrong that's stinky? Grabbing the veil is a fucking class A goddamn felony. So yeah, in other news, we don't want to talk like that. We don't want to talk like that. We're all at different points of our reconnection journey. And it's okay. It's okay. We don't know everything. Anyways.
Like, well, no. And I'm like, then do you know what being an Italian witch means? Do you know that?
Well, personally, once again, I don't know what being an Italian witch means because I'm not Italian. I need Frankie to really understand diaspora. Let me just transmit this knowledge to the past. Diaspora.
The term witch wasn't even used in Italy. We use we use fixers. Like they're
So the fun thing that I learned from my friend Dario, who is in Sicily right now, Sicilian practitioner, ceremonialist, you would not actually, and someone else told me this too in my comments. I love my Italian friends, by the way. That term is not actually one that you would call yourself. You know, you would not call yourself a fatiuchero, mago magai. You know, typically a name would be given to you based off what you do, and it would be like signora or signore. You know, and it differs by region, but you wouldn't typically call yourself that. It would be something other people would call you, right? It's like this idea of like community coming together and giving you that name, right? And like giving you a name to be referred to in reference to the kind of magic you do and how you help the community. So no, which wasn't used in Italy. You can still reclaim the term striga, strighe. I know a lot of people who are doing that, and I support them. I love them. Because that's what a lot of us are now, right?
There was no term, which was a bad thing. It was a bad term.
Ma'am, I need some sources. Oh, there's 1, 2, 3.
Is there a resurgence of reclaiming the word striga?
Yes.
Yes, there is. I love to see it. But
I'm skipping this because I'm tired.
There's societal context, the historical context for the spiritual practice.
Yes, all of those contexts are really important, but Frankie, I have not once heard you talk about how to connect with your community. And that is what we're missing.
Why? Because just looking up Italy or Austria or Germany or Hungary, depending on the area, you're going to have different sets of folk practices, different superstitions, different cultural beliefs. There are some that are pretty widespread throughout Italy, like il malocchio,
Yes, the idea of il malocchio is widespread throughout Italy, but there are so many different ways to dispel it. I've learned about at least 3 in my time in doing this, and that's something to keep in mind.
And how to dispel it. There's a practice that everyone does. But the way that Sardinia deals with parasitic or psychic fright or parasitic worms, which are spiritual attachments, is going to be completely different from the way Calabria or Puglia or Naples deals with these things.
True.
Different historical context is important because there are certain areas of the country that may have been under one effect and affected by, let's say, in my case, Rome versus Greece versus Turkey.
Yeah, I don't know if Calabria was affected by Rome that much. Like it was. It also was part of Magna Graecia. Maybe possibly Lucania. But I understand the point I'm trying to make, all right? I'm just gonna skip ahead. I'm so tired of this.
And the reason that this is important is what I said, is because it's part of connecting and claiming. You have to study these things. You can't just start saying that you're an Austrian folk witch.
So that's true. You can't just start saying it, but I don't think that I really understood the best way to approach this. That's okay. Once again, the folk are the basis of folk magic. Who are the folk? Your community.
Comes with being a folk practitioner of a certain region and connecting on that aspect. And when you're going about it in the way that is respectful and kind and aware that you're a guest here, you're a guest in this practice until you fully immerse yourself and understand every aspect of it. That's amazing and important. There's just...
Okay, so I agree with this to an extent. You don't have to understand everything about a folk magic to consider yourself a practitioner of it. Isn't that crazy? I'm sorry. My sarcasm is starting to kick in with my old video, and I loved myself back then, but I also know where they were and what they need.
Cool. I'm getting gushy, okay? I'm getting gushy. I'm sorry.
Are we getting gushy? I don't think you're... What is this? Look at this pause game.
Sorry, I'm getting vulnerable in the timeline. I understand.
Do they know where we end up? I literally talk about my feelings all the time.
Part of coming with that is having a teacher or mentor. The reason I say...
You can have a teacher or mentor. A lot of certain traditions that are not mine require you to have a teacher or mentor because it's orally passed. There are certain lineages. There are complete lineages in hoodoo, and I think, actually not hoodoo and conjure, but sometimes lineages and initiation is something. But you know what's another way to learn this is to learn from your peers. Learn from the people around you who are willing to share things from you, and share sources, learn what they were taught growing up versus what you were taught, pass things to one another, share spells with one another, see each other in practice, see each other in ritual. That is how you learn. Those are your teachers a lot of the time, are the people around you in the culture with you, reconstructing with you, the conversations you have, the ways you navigate things together. Also, teachers are great, but the importance of learning from seeing, learning from communicating, learning from being friends and peers, that shouldn't go unnoticed. And also be very careful with the mentors and the teachers you pick. I would always recommend to have one. I think that teachers and mentors and learning from someone is very important, especially if they're an elder. Do I think that that's something that everyone should do at some point? Yes, I think everyone should take a class with someone they want to learn from. I think everyone should have a teacher who will pass things down to them orally. I think everyone should have someone who they read all the Substack blog posts of. It's me with Mary Grace Farren. Or me with Mary Beth Bonfiglio. God damn it, Mary's. Me with Mary Beth Bonfiglio, reading everything that she puts out ever. And not only just learning from the spaces they create and the classes they teach, but also learning from what they're saying, hearing what the questions they ask and what they talk about, and diving deeper, taking it in, implementing it, and continuing forth.
Having a teacher or mentor is important is because that are sacred to a region and were used by your ancestors. Or are you trying to learn a different part of the magic? Are you just trying to learn the culture? Are you trying...
Okay, Frankie, we gotta get all these terms down, Pat.
Trying to learn language. Different teachers exist for different reasons, and you will never find one that does everything. The teacher that
I don't know how to respond to that, because yes, but also I don't know if that's...
have right now is an Italian witch who was raised in it, had a specific tradition passed down, and I'm learning something that's a little bit more similar to Italian recon witchcraft when we put it on paper. But that doesn't mean that it's invalid. It's still a valid part of my practice. Do I keep my folk magic and my Italian recon witchcraft separate? Yes, because
I don't think I practice a lot of Italian recon witchcraft anymore. I mean, once again, depends on who you ask, right? Because there's a lot of people who, their stuff was very, very Catholic for a really long time, and they would never touch anything dual faith. And that's okay. On the other hand, I'm a little more comfortable with that, and a lot of people around me are a little more comfortable with that. and it's a part of my practice, but it doesn't mean that I think I am, like, I'm not a Iridian tradition person. I'm not initiated in that. I didn't read that book that much. Didn't really get a lot from it. So I mean, here's the thing is, like I said, Reconstruction is interesting because everyone has an opinion on how you're supposed to do it. Do you know who at the end of the day matters the most in Reconstruction? You and your ancestors. Your community also, but like, if you're doing something and it's working and you're like, well, none of the other people around me have a practice that looks like that, that's okay. We're not here to try and recreate the past. We're not here to try to recreate other families' traditions. We're here to reconnect with our own. And if someone way back in your ancestral line was invoking Diana at Nemi, connect with that. Why not? As long as you're being respectful and doing the work, that's all I care. Can you see my candle going? I got a little candle spell going. Anyways, I don't know if this makes any sense. And I'm sure someone will be angry with this video, and that's fine, because I know the people I learned from, I know my teachers, I know my peers, I know the people that matter to me, and the ones who will hold me accountable if need be, and that's okay. And if they don't do it, I don't know, I'm good. All right, I'm personally done with this video. I'm probably gonna take it off public, because of course I am. Like I said, there's a lot of parts of this that I wish I had gone over, like what is heritage? Why aren't we connecting with culture before folk magic? Stinky, please don't touch the veils. I swear to God. I know the people that have passed things to me, that sit in communion with me, that witness me in grief, that teach me, that I sit in classes with, that I sit in community with, and I hear them and I talk to them, and that is where the power in reconnection is. It's not in learning a old, outdated method of folk magic. It's not in trying to claim something that is communal. It's in finding community and finding what your community needs and implementing beliefs and rituals and holidays and ways of connecting with your ancestors and yourself, and learning these things and learning as you go, and sitting with someone on a phone, sharing something with them. Even if it's a recipe, a little prayer. It's, to me, about the folk magic that I practice is nothing without the folk that I love and that have taught me, that have been there for me, that have witnessed me, that have seen me talk, that have heard me, that have helped me grow. And I wish that I had understood that younger, but I do think that I understood everything at the perfect time. Yeah. Thanks for watching this video. Remember to drink water. Remember to tell your friends that you love them. Siate Benedetti. Stinky, please don't jump up on here. Stinky, no, the wire! No, Stinky cat! The microphone wire! Oh my God. Treacherous little heathen, aren't you?